Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. It's great with soup, sandwiches, or on its own, and it is the perfect recipe for a rainy day. Here to share how to make a delicious focaccia, we welcome culinary instructor, Chef Michael Charpentier. I said your name right?
You did. I appreciate it. Thank
Charpentier.
you. Oh, very nice.
All right, diving in on focaccia, where does one begin?
So the great thing about this is something that I like to refer to as an all-purpose dough. Focaccia is great because we can put it in a pan. We can kind of be pretty hands-off about it, but we can also utilize this dough to make pizza. We can make thick rustic breads. We can make hoagies with it.
Nice.
We can do any number of things with this.
I like that.
I originally developed this recipe as an actual like New York style pizza, and then we would use leftover dough to make focaccia with it, but then reverse engineering it to say, well, what if we started with the focaccia?
Okay.
So whenever I teach culinary classes, this is the most requested thing.
Ooh.
So whenever I go and I teach a class, people are pretty much, well, is there going to be focaccia? So I brought it here for you to make it here.
Beautiful.
So we've got 5 ingredients.
Okay.
And so before we start, I must say, and I'm not usually the kind of person to say we have to be really exacting, but when we're making bread, if we want consistent results, we have to start with consistent amounts. So the best thing that I could say tool-wise is just having a scale. And you can get a really inexpensive scale for somewhere between $15 and $20 online. Your favorite big box store will probably sell you one pretty easily.
Yeah.
And it's super easy to use. But we have 5 ingredients here. I've got flour, I've got water, I've got extra virgin olive oil, I've got yeast, and I've got salt.
Okay.
And that's it. And that's all we really need.
What kind of flour?
In this particular case, we're using all-purpose flour.
Okay.
Whatever you've got lying around your house is probably going to be fine.
Sweet.
The yeast, if you keep it in the refrigerator, will last for years at a time. You can keep it in the freezer, and it really doesn't die. We can pull it directly from the freezer to make it, and everything goes great.
Beautiful.
So I was told that you wanted to get your hands dirty.
Let's do it.
Okay. So we've got our big bowl here. If you want to dump all of this flour in.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, feel free to make a mess.
Oh my
I don't have to clean up. This is
yeah,
great.
Exactly. Okay.
So the next thing you want to do is you want to add this yeast.
Okay.
So we've started with 1,000 grams of flour. Again, we want to utilize our scale to give us a consistent result.
Sure.
So if you just want to stir that around.
Oh man.
And if you want to, just that easy.
I did wash my hands before this, I swear.
Yeah, I believe you.
Okay.
We're going to add our kosher salt here, and you can stir that
Is
around
this how you
too.
do it usually, just with your hands?
This is exactly how I do it.
Wow.
This is how I made this version here.
Okay, all right. Authentic.
Yeah, exactly. Rustic. So we got some extra virgin olive oil. You can throw that in there.
This is where it gets messy.
It's going to start to get messy. Yeah.
Okay.
I left you a towel. Just
so what is once the oil goes in?
The oil goes in. We're good there. But now we're going to add water.
Okay.
And it can be room temperature. Doesn't need to be filtered. Tap water is fine.
Alrighty.
Hot water, cold water. Room temperature is best.
Okay.
And then you're just going to make a big old mess of it.
Oh man.
So if you have kids at home,
this is the fun part.
This is a great recipe to make with kids.
Okay.
Because they can get messy, and it's really super forgiving.
I'm just shoving my hand in there and grabbing it. Is that
Grab
the
it. You can start
technique?
folding it over. Yeah,
okay.
you're doing great.
Okay.
It's like you've done this before.
Ooh, no, now I feel fatigue is setting in after 30 seconds.
That's okay.
So I need more training for my focaccia.
So what you're going to do here, as it starts to stick to your hand, you're going to use your other hand, and I'll hold the bowl for you, and you're going to do what is called washing your hands, and that's going to get a lot of those bits of flour off.
Oh, okay, so when I take it out?
Yeah, and just kind of rub them together, and most of that stuff will fall off into the bowl.
All right.
And it's really fun.
There's a very Play-Doh-like sensation happening here. Ooh, okay.
Right. So what you're going to do here is we would mix this all together.
Okay.
What I tend to do is you can leave it out on the counter for about 24 hours like I used here.
Okay.
Or you can stick this in your fridge for up to a week. We find that it's best and easiest to utilize it when it's about 2 to 3 days in your refrigerator.
Okay.
It will develop more fermenty flavors.
Okay.
And it will be a little bit softer and more pliable to make pizza, to make focaccia, to make those rustic breads.
Interesting. Okay, so you can do these things a couple days ahead of time and then revisit when you're ready. Okay.
Yeah, and just let it hang out in there.
Okay.
So what we've got here is this version that I made yesterday. And so what we've got is we've got a pan that has been lubed up with more extra virgin
oil, okay.
Extra virgin olive oil. We've let it sit out and we've let it rise for about 3 hours. And we're going to start dimpling it here.
Okay.
And so that's
dimpling.
Dimpling. That's kind of fun, and that's going to help promote bubbling as it cooks. And I've got this beautiful rosemary that came from my mom's garden.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Smells really good. And we're going to take some of this, and we're going to just...
Oh, that smells, instantly, the first little stem that you pulled, that smells so good.
And you want to use fresh for this if you've got it. So the great thing about this is, too, in addition to rosemary or anything else, if you've got some cherry tomatoes that are still coming out in your garden. If you've got any sort of produce, I like some olives that don't have pits, and then maybe some shaved onion is really nice.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Fresh herbs, if you've got basil, any of that stuff will work really,
so
really
with
well.
the dimpling, is there a purpose that serves beyond just looking beautiful?
It looks beautiful. It's going to help promote bubbles on the inside
as
it rises while it bakes. And then, yeah, it's just going to kind of lead to a great texture because some of those tops are going to get brown and toasty also. So we've got a little bit of olive oil from the top. We've got this rosemary. I've got some fancy sea salt here. It's got kind of some big, thick grains to it. And so we're going to sprinkle some of that on also.
Delish.
There's salt in there, but some of this stuff bakes onto the top and gives it kind of a nice, crunchy texture that is really, really delicious. Okay.
Oh, it smells so good.
Just like that.
Okay.
And so I would have my oven set to about 450 degrees.
Oh.
If you've got convection, utilize it. If you don't, that's fine too. The great thing about it is that, like I said, it's fairly forgiving. So if you have convection, it's going to take about 20 to 25 minutes. If you don't, it's going to take about 30 minutes.
Okay.
So we bake it in the pan. We would just throw it right in.
Just toss it in as it is.
Chuck it in there. Okay. A few more dimples, just like that.
Yeah.
So,
this is very beginner-friendly baking. Yeah.
And through the magic of television.
Wow, that's beautiful. Look at that.
It's going to look like this.
Perfectly browned.
So if you decide that you want to cook it a little bit longer, if you want to check the bottom, say you've cooked it in the pan and it hasn't gotten quite as toasty as you like it, you can actually throw it directly on the oven so that the bottom looks like
We do that with pizza at home. Yeah, just toss it back in there.
And that's pretty much all there is to it.
And then you can do any multitude of things with this once it's out. Okay.
So you could cut it into squares, cut it in half and make yourself a sandwich. Let's cut it into it. Let's make sure we did our job right.
Listen to that. That's a good crunch on there. Bubbles. Yes. Yeah, beautiful.
Very nice. And
then that smells so good. You know, me and Oprah, we love bread.
Well, I mean, who doesn't?
It's the biggest thing we have in common.
So we cut into slices like this. We had some butter. We had some garlic oil. We had some roasted garlic. If you wanted to, if you had lots of this left over, you could toast it and turn it into croutons.
I was going to say you could serve these as like little dippers at a football party or something.
Absolutely. One of my favorite things to do with it is to take some pieces that have been, for a loaf that's maybe a few days old, let it dry out, turn it into breadcrumbs, and then put that on a Caesar salad.
So good. Okay.
Okay. You ready to try this?
I'm ready. I'm waiting.
Okay,
Do I just grab one?
You.
Okay, okay, okay. Oh, and it's still warm from the oven, too. This is a dream.
A little bit of salt on top.
Yep.
Nice herbs. I'm not supposed to talk.
Final question about the dough. Can you freeze the dough and use it later?
You can absolutely freeze the dough.
Okay.
You want to let it sit for a day or two in your fridge. Then you can freeze it. You can pull it out, have it portioned. Then you can make pizza or do anything else you want with it. Thank you, Michael. Delicious. I'm also talking with my mouth full because it's so good. We'll have this recipe and more information about Michael on our website at KATU.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.